Brought to you by Penguin.
"25 Alive" by James Patterson. Read by January Lavoie.
This book is dedicated with our thanks to our readers, the unofficial members of the Women's Murder Club. Prologue. 1. Just after 6 that morning, Warren Jacoby, a 60-year-old retired homicide lieutenant and former chief of police, parked his Ford F-150 within walking distance of one of the eastern entrances to Golden Gate Park. Jacoby was edgy in the best possible way, amped up, excited, feelings he hadn't had in years. Today was the day. After weeks of planning and tracking, within the next hour, he would bring down a killer. He was a big man, 240 pounds, but he'd stayed in shape. This morning he wore his bird-watching gear, camouflage pants, and a matching sweater under his tack vest. Binoculars hung from a strap around his neck, and his weapon was wedged against the small of his back by the waistband of his pants. Jacoby entered the park, keeping to the tree shadows, looking for a merciless killer who delighted in outfoxing the police. Jacoby had to do this alone, and he could, but he was still haunted by the bureaucratic bullcrap that had forced him into early retirement. He hadn't been able to shake the humiliation. Bottom line, he would not, could not, close out his life's work by leaving this psychotic predator at large. Jacoby quickly slipped into a narrow pocket of rampant vegetation, a cleft in the living walls of dense vines and saplings. Inside this natural bivouac, he was virtually invisible, but had partial views of the path looping around the lily pond below and back up to the street. Years ago, he'd been walking the park when he saw a man acting suspiciously near the lily pond. When a teenage girl's dead body was pulled from the pond later that day, Jacoby knew what he'd witnessed and what he'd failed to do earlier. He'd been too far away, and it had happened too quickly for him to even make an ID. Parting branches and peering around a clump of trees now, Jacoby saw a great blue heron swoop down between the treetops and veer toward the pond. Through the zoom lens in his phone, Jacoby followed the large heron's flight path, then took pictures of the bird with its dark crown and long gray plumes on its breast. Below the heron at the edge of the pond, Jacoby spotted his subject, wearing a dark windbreaker, jeans, and a dark-colored baseball cap. The killer took a gun from his pocket and threw a shot at the bird. The bird veered away at the sound, and the shooter tossed the gun into the water. There was a splash, and then he turned on the path and slowly began to retrace his steps uphill. Jacoby waited impatiently. He didn't have the authority to perform an arrest, but the former detective had zip ties in his vest pocket. Jacoby planned to surprise the guy as he walked past his hidey hole and body check him to the ground. Then, once he'd immobilized the SOB, he'd call Chief of Police Charles Clapper to let him know that he had a wanted killer secured and ready for roasting. 2. Warren Jacoby patted his vest's breast pocket and pulled out a tangle of zip ties, accidentally snagging the rest of the pocket's contents at the same time. Never mind. He shut off his phone's flash and took a few shots of the killer climbing the path. Then Jacoby paused to review the photos he'd just taken. As he'd expected, the light from the faint sunrise behind him had been just bright enough to define plumage on a big freaking bird, but not so bright as to positively ID the killer. Jacoby slipped the phone into his vest's side pocket, and that's when he felt the crushing grip of a hand between his neck and right shoulder. A voice in his ear said, "You think I haven't seen you tailing me? Don't turn around." He almost recognized that voice. Who? Okay, you got me. Jacoby didn't dare resist capture with his back turned.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?